Imagine starting a fitness journey at 52, weighing over 280 pounds, and now at 55, feeling better than ever after losing over 100 pounds, improving cardiovascular health, and building muscle. Maybe you've taken up running and you want to maintain muscle while shedding fat. Maybe you're eager to reclaim your health at the same time. In today's episode, we're talking to someone who did just that. He used our physique development approach to massively improve his health and body composition while qualifying for the Boston Marathon. You're going to learn from him how to balance it all, how to balance nutrition, training, and physique goals while doing what you love. Today, I have Ben Lewis on the show. Ben used our physique tracker to help him track, measure, and achieve a truly remarkable transformation, shedding over 100 pounds and qualifying for Boston at 55, like we said in the intro, while building and maintaining muscle mass at the same time. Yes, you can prioritize what you love to do and what kind of athlete you want to be and still achieve your physique and health goals. We'll explore his transformation, the strategies he used for sustainable fat loss, and how he makes it all work. Plus, later on, Ben is going to share his number one tip if you're trying to prioritize performance and health at the same time. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Philip. Appreciate it. Good to be here.
It's so we met in our Facebook group, in the Wits and Weights Facebook group, and we're like, let's get together because you have an incredible story. I mean, we love posting photos and looking at the before and after and all that, but really, it's what's deep down inside and kind of the process you went through to get there and why this thing works and what didn't work. So just to start off, I want to put the audience in your shoes. You're about to start one of your training sessions right now. Maybe it's one of your hybrid training sessions, you're training for the marathon, whatever it is. Maybe you're lifting and running, I don't know. You're going to tell us what it looks like. I want you to take us there, right? Into the gym or your favorite trail or wherever it is. What is going through your mind as you prepare to tackle the disciplines involved?
Oh, wow. What's going through my mind? So typically, I either run or lift first thing in the morning. So I'm getting up out of bed, getting some nutrition in, depending on which one I'm doing first on a particular day. And I'm really just thinking about the workout, just thinking about what I need to do, what I need to accomplish, what's the purpose of this particular workout today. So say, for example, I'll talk about today because so today that I did leg day first in the gym. So I was knowing that we're recording this on a Thursday and Saturday's my long run day. So I knew I've got 2 days before my long run. So I knew I could really push it on my legs. So I'm really thinking about, how I'm going to lean into the Bulgarian. I was doing Bulgarian split squats, Romanian deadlift, some cable step ups. And so I'm really going in thinking about hitting that hard, knowing that I had an easy run after that. And so, I go in, I hit that workout, get some more food, get a couple of medjool dates, get some carbs in. I actually eat a little bit of protein before I lift when I do a lift and run back to back. So I had a protein shake and some banana and prunes before I went, then had medjool dates afterward. And I took off for a 7-mile super easy run. I know that for those I know a lot of your listeners are probably more strength training focused, so 7 miles does not sound easy. But in terms of the taxingness on my cardiovascular system, I knew I'm going to be super easy on this. One thing I've actually started, and I recorded one today, I will force myself to be able to sing a song while I'm running. So, real low heart rate. I know zone 2 training is real popular these days. Well, this run was actually about 50% zone 1 and 50% zone 2. So it's going to be that easy, and I'm just kind of pushing that run. And cool. And it was fun, and it was faster than I would have anticipated a zone 1, zone 2 run, so that was nice too. So.
All right, man, that sounds like a lot of fun and definitely more than a lot of listeners probably do in a typical training session because, you're right. We're focused on lifting. And I remember years ago attempting to train up to a half marathon. And once I was at 4 miles or above, I'm like, this is a lot of running for me.
It is.
And I've done 5Ks and I'm like, that even just like wins me. But a couple of things you mentioned was, hitting it hard, knowing you had an easy run after that strikes me as like a really good kind of mindset approach or trick where, you're contrasting things and saying like, it's not going to be that bad. So I should go after it now. And then you mentioned, you got very specific on your protein carbs, which I love. People are always asking, what should I eat before a workout? And you talked about some fruit, some dried fruit, prunes, date. I love that you got specific there. And then with the zones and all that. Yeah, man. So what are you training for right now?
So theoretically, I'm going to do another marathon in December. I did
Okay.
qualify. I qualified for Boston this past December. However, your listeners may not be aware, for the Boston Marathon, it's number one, you have to hit a standard time for your age. So I made that standard by about a minute and a half. However, based on the number of people who have put in applications, sometimes they have to cut off that time even further than the standard.
Mm.
So my standard was 3 hours and 35 minutes. I did 3:33 and some change. My strong suspicion is that I qualified. I got the T-shirt, but I won't get in the race. and
Eh,
I
That's not
and
fair, man. That's not fair. You know.
I, yeah, there was a lot of consternation about it
Yeah.
this year for the one that just passed a couple of months ago in April. It was like a 5.5 minute buffer you had to have, and frankly, I did well. I mean, I qualified for Boston, but I feel like I felt like even then I felt like I could have done better. There was some mitigating circumstances that day, so I want to crush the marathon. I want to conquer the marathon in December, run Boston in 2026, and then frankly be done with marathons. Move more to the half distance, the shorter distance. We can talk more about that later, but yeah, that
Yeah. No. Yeah.
it'll
No. I
be.
was. Yeah.
I want December to be my third marathon and Boston to be my last marathon.
Okay, and
So,
again, your attitude, I love it, man. It's infectious. Like I wanted people to hear that because you're like, well, it's worth celebrating that you qualified, and yet it doesn't have to be enough. Like you want more, and that's fine, right? Like
yeah.
I totally get that. Of there's a healthy frustration that drives you,
Mm,
and that's cool, right? Like there's a point where
yeah.
it can get too much, and there's a
Right.
point where there's maybe not enough, where you're just not
Yep.
pushing enough. Let's go back in time because I want the listener to kind of go through
Yeah.
your history here
Hmm.
and start about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
2013, you got down to about 175 pounds.
Yep.
From what? What were you at the max?
So the max when I stepped on a scale was 277.
Okay.
I don't, when you're overweight like that, at least me. So I grew up,
I
I
got it.
grew up as an athlete and playing basketball in high school and all that stuff. And I represent a lot of guys that I think we could eat whatever we wanted to because we were so active when we were younger.
Yep.
I was playing ball 4 or 5 days a week for 2 or 3 hours. Literally, I had a bowl of butter pecan ice cream every night before I went to bed, and I weighed 155 pounds when I graduated high school. I'm
Right.
5'10". So anyway, so yeah, I had some not good eating habits, and those slowly over time ballooned into I was about 278 when I was 43, 44 years old, however
Hmm.
old I was in 2013. And actually a guy from my church started a Facebook group. I had never heard of it. He started a Facebook group at the beginning of 2013, and he invited he was overweight and he invited basically kind of all the overweight dudes that were heavily involved in the church to a
Okay.
Facebook group, and he called it "Let's Lose It, Fellas." I went and looked it up again today because I wanted to
Oh
"Let's Lose
man.
It, Fellas." It was using the Lose It app, which I didn't know there were weight loss. This was 2013. I didn't even know there
Sure.
were weight loss apps at the time, and so it was just kind of a lark, and I was like, I really, yeah, I need to do this. I need, in the back of my head, I'm 40 at that point. I guess I'm 43. My wife is pregnant with our second child, and I know I'm going to be 62 when she graduates from high school, I'm class two obese, and I'm worried about health. I want to be around for my daughters, and we have an older daughter than her as well. So it was kind of always in the back of my mind. This is something I need I need to deal with this. I need to take care of this. I
Yeah.
need to get back to a healthy
Yeah.
weight.
The health
And
health
so,
was a driver, but the values were really like living for your family and being there and
yeah,
not being,
hmm,
and like you said, you're representing a lot of other people. I mean, men and women who hear this, who
yeah,
life has made things very different than in their 20s
yep,
and they're getting older and they haven't kept up with things. So
yep,
you did lose a bunch of weight back then, but
yeah.
maybe not in the right
Oof.
way. We want to understand what that looked like so that we
So,
can contrast it to what you did later.
I went in the app, and the app gives you the option: how much weight do you want to lose per week? And it maximizes it maximizes it 2 pounds. So I chose 2 pounds. I want to do it as fast as possible. I can't tell you other than I just want to do this. Why I chose the fastest weight loss? It didn't make it. There's no logical reason for it. Like it wasn't. Oh, I want to get thin for this event. I didn't have anything coming up. Nothing. No, nothing like that. It was just I want to lose as fast as possible. I didn't know any better.
Mhm.
I didn't know any better either. So, and they had forums. Lose It had forums back then, and people were saying, "Well, don't eat back your exercise calories either." And I started exercising, and so I was 5'10", 270 some pounds, eating 2,300 down to I think 1,800 calories a day. And
Mm.
by then, I started running and I was lifting a little bit. I was running a little too. I was doing probably more cardio than I should have for body composition stuff. But anyway, I was running, lifting, and doing all the things. And basically, the weight loss. I looked at the journey. Looked at the journal that I have of that. It was like 2.5, 3 pounds virtually every week for
Mm.
this for 7 months.
So a good
Um,
solid 1% or more of
it
your
was
weight every week. Yeah.
more, yeah, it got to be.
Yeah.
It was more. I mean, I was still losing
Yeah.
3 pounds a week, 2.5 to 3 pounds a week when I was 210,
Yep.
200. I mean, and so it was getting harder and harder. So I'd have these big, you get starving, you have a big binge, it goes up, then you can grit your teeth for 2 weeks, and
Mm.
then you just can't take it, and you grit your teeth, and I did it, but it was not sustainable. And it basically, long story short, it kind of all fell apart when it was heavily. So I got fast. Sorry, I started running. I got pretty fast. Yeah, I was getting some attention for that, and so I was on Strava, which is a running app that folk you share
Mhm.
your runs, and everybody getting all these likes and blah blah blah. And then we lived in Charleston, South Carolina at the time. We moved to Greensboro, North Carolina. And the time right before the move, when you got all your stuff packed up and you're eating carrot takeout like every single night, and then the
Mhm.
3 or 4 weeks after, you're eating takeout every single night because you're still unpacking. And I put on weight, didn't have time to exercise, and my times were a lot slower. And again, it was so outwardly focused on people seeing how good I was doing, how well I was doing, and I wasn't doing as well. And I just kind of went. I went into a cocoon and basically gained it all back over the course of it was a slow gain back to I ended up heavier than I started even. And so I won't go into all that detail, but I
Yeah.
guess you want
No,
to
that's
take that to the beginning of 20 or the end of 2021.
yeah.
End of
I mean,
2020.
hold on,
End of
hold on.
2020.
Yeah. Let
Oh, go ahead.
let let let
Okay.
let's sit on some of this, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
go ahead.
I'm sure people are listening, thinking like, "Oh man, I could identify with so much of that." First of all, the external validation that you were seeking,
Mhm.
right? It's like
Yep.
you put that in the bucket of motivators that are outside of you that maybe aren't sustainable as motivators, right? Or
Right.
even they're unhealthy motivators,
Unhealthy.
unhealthy. The fast food while moving. So we built our house in 2018. Now that was a couple years before I got into this stuff as well myself, and man, I
Hmm.
became really good friends with the McDonald's manager.
Yeah.
Because it's like a block. It's like a block away from here, and I was like just exhausted and
Yeah.
distracted, and it's like easy, it's convenient, and you don't have a routine, you don't have this discipline that you probably have now. And
Yeah.
then you gain it all back, like you said. It probably you probably didn't gain it back at 3 pounds a week, like you
Nope.
lost it, but you
But
eventually get. And a lot
eventually.
people need to understand that, right? Because a lot of people think, oh, I just got fat all of a sudden, or I just gained it. But if you really are honest with yourself, it probably took a long time,
Yes.
and which is means it can you can easily reverse it, with the right
Yeah.
approach. So, all right,
Yep.
fast forward to just about 3 years ago,
Yep.
2021. You were
Hmm.
52, and then you're
Hmm.
back up to 280 or 277 is the max, but whatever.
Oh no, it was
Um,
no, it was more than that. It was
oh,
yeah, I
this
was
one was more than that. Okay, good.
I got to so
Yeah, yeah,
I
good.
have to tell you the before picture I posted in the group. Technically, it was from 2020. It was December 2020, my birthday. It was my
Mhm.
52nd birthday, and I was gonna start, right at the new year because my birthday's in
Sure.
late December, and I was gonna start right in the new
New
year,
year,
and
new
that
you. Yeah.
and I didn't,
Okay. All
and
right.
and I didn't. But and the funny thing, I can't really tell you what happened because I don't really remember the detail, but in March of 2021. Um, so I really started in terms of like tracking my food, paying attention to what I was doing. This March 15th, 2021. Somebody asked me what clicked, and I said honestly, it was probably a non-busy weekend where I had time to plan and get a couple of meals together and cook a couple of things ahead of time. That probably was what it was, to be honest. It was just because again, it's in my head for all this time that I've got to do this. I've got to take care of this. I have got to take care of this. And so, I think about like these online trolls that love to body shame people. I'm going,
Mhm.
there's probably two categories of people that are obese. There's people like me who are it's constantly in your head. It's not a little. It is constantly in my head every night when I go walk upstairs and I'm winded after I walk upstairs. I've got to take care of this. Every time there's, I see people out in public. I've got to take care of this. Every time there's an event back in my hometown that I want to go to, and I'm thinking I don't want anybody to see me like this. I got to take care of it. It's just it is a constant battle. So it's not like it's not like I was never thinking about it. I was always thinking about it, but something hit
Yeah.
that the third weekend of March in 2021.
Before, because I want to hear
Yeah,
what the
go ahead.
second type of person is, but would you verbalize that often as well, or was it mostly in your head?
Oh, it was here. It was
So it wasn't
here.
like to everybody, like,
mean,
I
to my
gotta
wife,
get back in shape.
to my wife.
To your
Yeah,
wife, yeah, okay.
to my wife, but no, not out in public or anything.
Right.
I would just say the second type of person, they're not concerned about it either. And why are you concerned about it if they're so concerned about it? Point being, leave people alone. That's my point. There is just no matter where they're at, just leave them alone. Okay.
Agreed. It's your personal journey. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's somebody else's journey. And anyway, yeah, it's not helpful when I know, and I think most people are probably where I was. The vast majority of where I was of, oh my gosh, I need to take care of this. I don't need somebody else beating me up. I'm beating myself up enough. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, and
anyway,
and that applies. I mean, honestly, that applies to so many insecurities we have about ourselves.
Yeah.
It may not just be
true.
It may be a little overweight. It may be just your physique in general. It may be something related to work or your relationship or whatever. It's like, yeah, you're constantly telling yourself, I've got to do this. So what prevents people from doing it? I love what you said though when you talked about taking a non-busy weekend and planning. Like that actually struck me because I know I'm a really busy guy, right? You can imagine.
Yep.
Okay, I've seen the podcast and the work and everything else. Sometimes, surprisingly, I just have this like 2-hour block of nothing, just very surprisingly and rarely. And when that happens, if I could just sit down and like do something that's just been totally neglected, it can take your mind off the stress of it, but also give you this insight and clarity to go forward and take action.
Yep.
So what's the lesson? Is the lesson from that we have to like create those moments? Have you thought about that too much?
I haven't thought a lot about it. That's a great question. I haven't thought a ton about it, but I think, ultimately, yeah, it's creating. I mean, if I had created that space at another time, I mean, my goodness, it was we're talking coming to the tail of the pandemic. It's not that I didn't have non-busy weekends in 2020. I mean, come on, we all had non-busy weekends in 2020. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I did lose a little bit and got distracted. I don't remember why I got distracted, but I did. So, but creating that space and really just seizing that moment,
Seizing
not.
the moment. Yeah.
See, I think that's not waiting till Monday, not waiting till the new year, not just seizing the moment when it comes. So
but there's magic in that, man. And I think I know we're going to necessarily sit on this topic, but people want to know there's a lot of people probably listening who are like getting motivated by this podcast and not taking action. I hope most people are, but if they're not, like where you were, what is it that they can do to seize that moment besides just do it? And I know sometimes it is just do it, but seriously, people want to know, like, what's the secret, Ben? What are your thoughts? I know you're not a guru. We're just asking honest opinions here.
No, it's a great question. I would say this: progress definitely gives you momentum, and early on, I think momentum is critical and crucial. And so, progress could be a number on the scale. It could be getting yet last week I was able to jog for 30 seconds and this week I can jog for 35 seconds. It's seeing something where there's some sort of tangible evidence of, okay, this is working. I am getting better. Now that's dangerous because sometimes, we know the scale can be a fickle master. And, it may be that you're more tired and you're a little bit slower than you were last week, or your heart rate goes a little higher, or whatever metric you might be using. So that can be dangerous, but the old Nick Saban, trusting the process at some point of this stuff works. It really does. And I can say that, and we may get into that more.
We're going to. Don't worry, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts.
It really does
here.
work. It is math and science in the final analysis. But there's definitely a mental mindset piece of it, but there's a lot of math and science involved too.
I can totally empathize with that. You know that I'm a geek at heart and nerd. I love the data. And like, you're right. Sometimes you just have to say, almost like forget what you're thinking and your emotion about it and just say, you've got a process, you've got some numbers, plan it out, start doing it, see what happens, like test it out. But
Yeah.
this is really important because the insight here for people listening is, okay, you've got to seize some sort of moment. You got to have the space to do that. You've got to seize it and then do something that gives you quick progress, quick wins to get motivation.
Quick wins. Yeah.
What were those for you in the first like month or two back in 2021?
Well, I started tracking my calories. I got a calorie count. It was higher than what I was doing back in 2013, but still probably not high enough ultimately, and that
Mhm.
changed over time. So I got a calorie count. So I did see the scale. I did see the scale move. Actually, the first couple of 2 or 3 days it went up, and then it started going down. I had a bicycle, and I started riding in the neighborhood. And one thing, when you are really, really out of shape, I've found this to be in 2013 as well as in 2021. When you're really, really out of shape, you make progress pretty doggone fast.
That's a great point,
In
man,
terms
because
of
your
you get
baseline
fat,
is so
your
low.
baseline's so low. So
Yeah, the
yeah, I
relative
mean, I don't
change
remember the
happens
numbers,
fast. Yeah.
but I probably did a 10-minute bike ride. I'm pointing out to the street here. I probably did a 10-minute bike ride on this street at 7 miles per hour the first week, and it was probably 8 or 9 miles per hour the second week. Just oh, okay, I'm getting better. It was probably that big of a difference, almost quick. I'm kind of doing it every other day, and I would recommend, whatever cardio, whatever strength training you're doing, don't try to do it every day. Take a,
Yeah.
every other day, take a rest. If it be a walk, or jog, walk. If I were going to start over, that's what I would do. I would jog
Mhm.
for 30 seconds and walk for 3 minutes, and jog for 30 seconds and walk for 3 minutes. Is probably how I would structure it. And if you can't jog for 30 seconds, jog for 15 seconds. If you can't
Mhm.
jog at all, walk for 30 minutes.
Cool, man.
So anyway, yeah, I think just track it. So I did see. I saw my bike ride. I didn't start in 2013 with running at all. I was
Mhm.
afraid of my weight and my knees. So
Makes sense. Yeah. So again, another
2020.
powerful quote you said: "When you're out of shape, you make faster progress." I mean, like that's a great thing to latch onto because that's a positive reframing of being out of shape. It's like it's funny because I'll have like these discovery calls with somebody who's like 300 something pounds. We just had a new client set up who's on the
Yeah.
heavier side, and I like have this big smile. I'm like, I'm so jealous of you right now because you have so much opportunity to change from where you
Yes.
are and it actually doesn't have to be that hard because you've got some benefits of being out of shape. And it's like, it's a weird way to think about it. But like, if you have excess fat, that's energy that your body will start using early on. That actually
Yep.
makes it easy to lose weight and easy to build muscle
Build
versus
muscle.
when you're
Yep.
leaner. Right. So it's kind of like
Yep.
reframing of wherever you are, you've got things going for you. You've got some strengths
Yeah.
to go with. That's pretty cool. Why don't we get into some nuts and bolts? I mean, start with nutrition since you mentioned tracking macros. What
Yeah.
you could either go back then or you could just say like how it's evolved and like what your general
I,
philosophy is of nutrition. You
so
know.
I'll tell you I'll tell you one thing, and I am a big fan of tracking protein and calories, not
Hmm.
necessarily not all the macros. And my primary reason, I'm not a fan of meal plans at
Hmm.
all. And my reason for that is, I want to feel empowered to make these decisions myself. And when I started tracking, you start learning. I learned that walnuts are healthy, but they are a lot of calories.
Hmm.
I mean, they're just a lot of calories, and I learned what was worth it and what wasn't worth it, quote unquote. What indulgences were worth the calories, and some weren't worth it for me. And I was empowered to make that decision. It wasn't some named diet telling me you can't eat
Hmm.
carbs, or you must go less than 30 or 50 grams of fat a day, or you must do this. It was me being able to say, okay, in some cases, like, I like cheddar cheese, but you know what? I do reduce fat cheddar cheese now. It doesn't taste
I
as
hear you.
good,
I hear
but
you, man.
doggone it, it's not worth it
It
to
still
me.
scratches the itch of having
It
cheese.
scratches
Yeah.
the itch. But
Yeah.
it makes it worth it. But I still eat walnuts. I just eat fewer walnuts. I love walnuts, but
I
I
hear you, man.
now I understand and I manage the amount of walnuts I eat.
So,
So
so for you, a healthy amount of walnuts is less walnuts. There's
yeah,
like it's not like a walnut is healthy or not, right? It's just for you, less
right.
walnuts is healthy. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it really was I would wander. I work from home. I would wander in the kitchen and grab a handful of walnuts once every hour and a half or so. So I probably was eating 1,000 calories a day in walnuts.
Right.
I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It was probably
Okay. No, I hear you, man.
it was probably 1,000 calories a day in walnuts before I started
Just
tracking.
plain
So
dry walnuts.
Oh yeah, I love them. I can't
Okay,
even tell you how
okay.
much. Yeah, my wife joked me like on my like I'll get like oh if we talk about balance, I'll get like a cheesecake on for dessert on my birthday, say for
Hmm,
example,
hmm.
and I'll say I want some walnuts on the side, and my wife will interrupt and say, "You don't understand how many walnuts he wants." She will
Like
say
really, don't just
our
put two
server.
on there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you don't understand. He wants more walnuts than you've ever given anyone. So
There you
anyway,
go.
so yeah, but so nutrition. So structuring my nutrition. Number one, like I said, I like tracking because it has empowered me to figure out what's worth it and what's not worth it, and where I can make some change. Where I can do an indulgence, where I can decide. You know what? I want chicken thighs, not chicken breasts. And in order to do chicken thighs and not chicken breasts, that means I'm going to do Greek yogurt for breakfast and not eggs, or I'll do more egg whites and not eggs for breakfast.
Hmm.
Where I can make those trade offs and I can make those decisions, and they work for me. I'm definitely a fan of vast majority is whole unprocessed foods
Hmm.
of what I do in my diet, and but fitting in the indulgences. We just bought. When I say just bought, I just yesterday had my first from it. The what's it called? The creamy. What's this
Ninja
thing?
Ninja Creamy.
Ninja Creamy, the things that oh
Yes,
my gosh, that thing is ridiculous.
I know. It opens up a whole
That
new
thing
world.
is I mean, it's a game changer, absolute
Yeah.
game changer. My 15-year-old daughter heard me say that. She's the one that got us to buy it, and she's standing at my office door now, looking very smug,
There you go,
because
man.
she
Because
convinced
then
me
you
to
could
get it.
have ice cream that actually doesn't do the trade off that you have to make with
I
ice cream.
yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
made a 350 calorie pint of ice cream that has 40 grams of protein.
Yes, yes.
And
The
it
protein
tastes
is the
like
game changer.
vanilla ice cream.
I
Oh
know.
my
I
gosh,
know.
it's so
It's
good.
good stuff.
Anyway, so yeah, yeah, so I eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit. The keto zealots don't come from me. I do a lot of pretty heavy. I probably at this point, because I'm running and lifting, I am in a cut at about 4,100 calories a day average I'm eating.
Oh man.
Um,
That's yeah.
I do
We're all
4,000 on
jealous
weekdays.
listening to that. Like, wow, okay,
Yeah,
you do move a
and
lot. You
I've
do move a
been
lot.
consistently losing, dropping body fat, and gaining a hair of muscle based on your calculator,
Yeah.
um, since mid January. Just on yeah, it's kind of I've basically stayed from. I should have said that since 2021, late 2021, I got down to under 190 or so.
Hmm.
Since late 2021, I haven't been above about 210 or 215 or
Hmm.
so. And so, that's been between 175 and really the 210, 215, that was a one-time thing. So really between 175 and 205 for 3 years now.
Yeah.
So
So
or two and a
okay.
half years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So you
but yeah,
yeah no
sorry, nutrition. I should.
no
So
no
yeah,
it's all good. These are all tangent.
yeah.
Trust me. I take
Uh
notes
huh.
and we want to go
Okay.
off on these
Yeah.
because that's what people are asking. I mean, first of all, I mean sustainability is the buzzword we always throw
Yes.
around, but there
That's
is a reason for that, and it sounds like
yes.
you've taken that approach. I like how you said. Okay, you're not a fan of meal plans. Neither am I. I've done episodes about it. I have one called the perfect meal plan. That's basically a
Yeah.
mind shift when you listen to it because it's
Yeah.
like the perfect meal plan is the one that you make for yourself that works for you,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the spoiler
Agree
alert,
100%.
right? And I just did one recently, actually just came out this week, how to allocate, 1,200, 2,000, and three
I
thousand
heard that one.
calories. But again, it's
Yes.
like you got to be flexible and pick it for yourself. But what you said was it empowers you to know what's worth it and not worth it. And I want people to understand how that's distinguished from if you weren't tracking or you were trying to eat intuitively. And I understand there's a place where you could live at
Yeah.
maintenance and not have to track and all that. We know that. But tell us what your thoughts are on that, how it empowers you. Whereas if you weren't tracking, if you just ate mostly whole foods, why it might not be as successful.
Yeah. So, and this varies from person to person.
Hmm.
And so I like to say I am aware. I listen to a lot of podcasts, by the way. So I've heard you say that, I'm sure, but I've probably heard other people say it too. So they all kind of run together. I,
Sure.
I run like 8.5 hours a week. And so I listen to podcasts while
Oh,
I run.
there you go.
I'll run too fast if I listen to music. So, so I listen to a lot of, I mean, all health and fitness
Do you
podcasts.
listen
Anyway,
to it 1x or do you listen to it faster speeds?
1x,
Okay.
1x, just
Okay.
1x, just straight up, calm, easy. Most of my running is easy running. I'm sorry. Okay, I got distracted there. What was I answering? Remind me.
Tracking versus not tracking.
Oh yeah. So uh, for me, if I am fully capable, that's what I was going to say, protein. I am aware from listening to a lot of podcasts that people struggle with getting enough protein. That is not me.
Hmm.
If left to my own devices, I would eat 300-400 grams of protein a day. I'm not
Okay.
kidding you.
Okay.
When I make, even now, when I'll make a meal plan the day before, here's what I'm going to eat tomorrow, and it's invariably, okay, now where am I going to cut the protein so I can
Okay.
get enough carbs and fatty?
I
It's
know
all
the
right.
type. I know the type,
Okay,
brother.
I can only eat 8 ounces of chicken. I can't eat 10. That kind of thing. So it for me, I can and I can testify to this. I'm not a big. I mentioned cheesecake, but other than that, I don't really like sweets. I don't like
Hmm.
candy. I don't like chips. I don't. I don't eat any of that stuff. I eat, even when not tracking, I eat mostly whole unprocessed foods.
Hmm.
But I will eat too much of them. Just just quite bluntly, I'll just eat too much, and I just kind of have to understand, because I am super active, and I can get away with it to some degree now. So I will, but I know myself, so I like to do it just to keep those numbers. I think I could do intuitive now if I wanted to. In
Hmm.
fact, I may do it when I hit maintenance. I'm probably, what's this? I'm less than 2 months away from hitting where I want to be, most likely. Just in extrapolating out the numbers again, I'm a big spreadsheet geek, numbers guy.
Hmm.
Probably in mid to late August, I will get to right where I want to be, uh, body fat wise, body composition wise, and I'll go to maintenance for the official marathon training block. So I'm not
Yeah,
trying to lose weight while training for a marathon.
of course.
So yeah,
Y-
but yeah, the track for me, tracking just it reins me in terms of here's what you need to do, and here's what you need to pay attention to. And yeah, for me, intuitive would be too much protein, too much fat. I'm not a carb hound. I get
mhm,
them in
mhm.
because I need to get them in because of my running and lifting. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you're like dropping lots of wisdom bombs today. Seriously, you don't even know it, but like,
Okay.
because the way you're phrasing things, people need to hear this. What Ben was just saying is like he doesn't even eat all the things that are blamed on obesity and people getting fat, right?
Oh
Like too
yeah.
much sugar,
Oh gosh.
sweets. He doesn't even eat that stuff. He eats mostly whole foods, but he just eats too much. I mean, how many times have we talked about just it really does come down to energy balance, even though there are 1,000 roads to both sides of the energy balance equation that make it harder for people. And like for you, it's just you want to eat. Maybe you don't like food.
Hmm.
Maybe you just crave it. And you've
Hmm.
got to track just to get that information. But that information empowers you to then make the trade offs to still enjoy what you want and get
Yeah.
your results.
Shout out to Philippe. I know Philippe for a long time, and I know how passionate he is about healthy eating and body strength, and that's why I chose him to be my coach. I was no stranger to dieting and body training, but I always struggled to do it sustainably. Philippe helped me prioritize my goals with evidence-based recommendations while not overstressing my body and not feeling like I'm starving. In 6 months, I lost 45 pounds without drastically changing the foods I enjoy, but now I have a more balanced diet. I weight train consistently, but most importantly, I do it sustainably. If a scientifically sound, healthy diet and a lean, strong body is what you're looking for, Philippe Pape is your guy.
It's really powerful. Speaking of tracking and spreadsheets, since you mentioned it, why don't we talk about the physique tracker, which is what
Yeah.
got us here today originally,
Oh yeah.
and kind of the overall method of tracking body composition. Just tell us your story about using it and how it helped you.
Yeah. So you dropped that thing. When did you? I don't remember when you actually posted it. It was
when we
March or
when we
so.
launched when we launched Wits and Weights Physique University, because it's one of the tools in there, and
It's
I
one of the
gave it
tools
out
in
for
there.
free. Yeah, yeah,
You gave
yeah,
it out for free,
yeah.
and I grabbed it. I don't know, it's another product. I had just bought the Zozo suit. If y'all have heard of that thing, it measures it does your body measurements for you. It's just a lot easier than using a tape measure.
How much
For
how much does
me,
that cost? Let me ask you. I'm curious.
it's $100.
Oh, really?
Um,
And it's just like
it's a
neoprene, or what's the material?
I think it is neoprene.
Yeah,
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 it's just like a bodysuit.
yeah.
They claim they now offer a subscription with your phone, whether your phone will do it, and they say that the Zozo suit is to point 0.5 centimeters or I don't know, point 0.5, and the suit is, and then the phone is less accurate, kind of thing. But honestly, based on, I've done it with a suit and I've done it with a tape measure. I think it's accurate enough that I can trust it. So anyway, I
Hmm.
had some measurements with it, and then you dropped this physique tracker, and I was like, oh, let me start plugging these measurements in here and see what my body composition actually is. And what I saw was okay. And I thought this was the case in this little cut I've been in since January, but this affirmed it that I was like, I'm not losing any muscle mass. I mean, according to the tracker, I've gained 1 pound of muscle mass since January and dropped about 20 pounds of body fat, which is consistent with what I see in the mirror. What it did for me is it allowed me to trust the process even more and go, okay, I can bump up. And I was feeling, I'm kind of hungry and I'm tempted to just grab all the things on these days. And macro factor is telling me you can eat another 150 calories a day. And now this tracker is saying, and you are losing fat and gaining muscle. All right, I'm gonna say yes to that extra 150 calories a day. And that was something that I was not, I would have gone, I would have, eaten the minimum number of calories. Now I'm gotten more into the mindset of, okay, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna increase things now,
Even though
and
you're on a cut.
even though I'm on a cut, I'm
See?
gonna be
Yeah,
willing to
yeah,
increase
yeah, yeah.
when it's and I have been increasing my running. I was intentionally trying
Sure.
to increase my running base, so it makes logical sense that I would be burning more calories. I am running 55 to 60 miles a week. I've never run more than I hit 60 once during my last marathon bill, but I've never consistently run at this level, this number of miles a week. So it makes all the logical sense in the world. But I'll be honest, without the physique tracker, I would have said, I don't think I'm going to just stay where I am. I don't trust. I'm not going to take these extra calories.
That's awesome. I love that
Yeah.
use case, man, because it shows you the value of having the different types of measurements. A
Yeah.
lot of people will use the physique tracker in a very limited scope, just kind of before and after, get the numbers and understand what happened. You used it to take action, or at least to comfort your mind about
Yeah.
what other data was telling you, like triangulating, like double checking.
Yes.
And that's why I love, not just scale weight, but trend weight and body composition and measurements and biofeedback and all that. So that's pretty cool. Now you gained a pound. So here's what's interesting for people listening. I might as well offer the physique tracker as like a freebie for this episode. So, I'll
Yeah.
include a link to that, but it's, just to be technical, it's lean body mass, which
Lean body mass.
is organ weight plus muscle plus fluid. But since you're losing weight, it is mainly muscle you're looking at, because you've effectively lost. So here's what usually happens, Ben. People will see a certain amount of loss of muscle and they'll get freaked out because it's a little more than they thought. And in reality,
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on. When you go back to maintenance, some of that's going to come right back because it's not muscle. It's just fluid, right? But you actually saw it go up. So in essence, if you applied the same logic, you actually might have gained even more than that in muscle. Did you think about that?
Yeah, no, I didn't. That is, you're right. That is a possibility because
Yeah.
you pull in some fluid with the muscle. Yeah. So
Yeah. Or you've lost fluid by being in
Right,
a
lost fluid.
deficit and being
By
in
being
this
in a
sort of
deficit.
dehydrated
Yeah.
state. And so if it's showing a net gain, you've actually gained more than what it's saying a tiny bit.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and you've demonstrated like you can body recomp even when you're in a deficit.
Even when you're deficit and even when you're running 60 miles a week.
So let me ask you about that. Would you recommend all the listeners that they should run 60 miles a week to increase their expenditure? Okay. All
Heck
right.
no, absolutely not.
Because people are thinking that, Ben. People are like, oh, that's how
unless
you
you
eat
have
4,000
a-
calories.
Yeah, and that's why I eat. Unless you have a marathon goal, and if there are some of y'all out there that do want to improve your running, there's some great podcasts that will help you with that. Running Explains, a great one with Elizabeth Scott. Alyssa Lennox does the Messy Middle, and she talks a lot about hybrid training too. But the number one thing is, and I know that this is a buzzword now in the fitness world, but that zone 2 running, that easier running. So my increase in mileage was, running coaches will tell you, do 80% of your runs easy, 80% of your mileage easy, 20% hard. I was doing 90% easy, 95% easy during those weeks when I was increasing, so that I could recover, so that I could still lift and lift well, so that so that I wouldn't get injured, in my running. So make sure that if you do want to increase your running, that you're increasing it slowly, sustainably, that you can recover from. And that's really where that zone 2 really shines. It's the most you can do and still recover easily, because
I
there's not a
love that.
build up a lactate. We won't get into all the technical reasons for it, but yeah.
No, I got it. It's like that optimum. It's the same thing with lifting, right? It's like 5 to 10 hard sets will start
Yep.
to get you toward the upper end of like the perfect amount where you still get a lot of recovery. Whereas if you
Yeah.
get to like 15 to 20 sets, yeah, it's optimal to like build as much as possible, but now you're impeding recovery. So with
Yep.
running, same. I've heard that too from runners like who've evolved their thinking over the time, especially as they get older, right? Because that's when you
Yep.
start to really feel it. That no, come on, take a step back and you'll actually get more results over the long term.
Yeah.
Really good. What when you're with your eating habits, besides macros and calories, which I've been thinking of doing an episode that's like, can that just be enough? In other words, sometimes we criticize if it fits your macros for being too simplistic, and we need to consider health factors and saturated fat and fiber and everything,
Yeah.
which I agreed with to an extent. But I also know when I started my journey, I just thought of macros and it made a massive improvement for me.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay,
Yeah.
there's the 80 to 90% and there's the 10 to 20%.
There
And
we
so
go.
it kind of depends on where you are. So when I was 280 pounds, you know what? Just dropping the weight, honestly, even just dropping the at that point, even just, and I won't speak heresy here, but just dropping the body weight has huge
Sure.
improvement to all
Sure.
cause mortality, even if you do lose some muscle mass. So
Mhm.
I don't recommend it, but even if
Hence the
you do,
case
so
for the Ozempic and all those drugs
yeah,
today with a lot of folks.
there's a
Yep.
case for
Hmm.
that. So
Hmm.
so it kind of, it's kind of how far away from healthy, whatever that means, are
Hmm.
you?
Sure.
So yeah, now I'm sitting here, I'm right at 180 right now, and I'm about somewhere 15, 16, 17, 18% body fat, somewhere in there. So this is where some of those 10 to 20% things do start to matter a little bit more. Yeah. So my thought is, don't major on the majors first. Yeah, major on the majors first. Getting your calories, getting your protein, getting your strength training, getting some cardio in. The things that that you talk about on your podcast. So those are the things that are going to drive, whatever percentage it is, but a large percentage of those things, large percentage of those improvements. Then, yeah, you may need to to dial in some other levels when you start to get closer to ideal, and you start to need, in order to make progress, you need to hit some of these other things. So,
Yep. It's really important that you said that, right? Because 80,
yeah,
20, 90, 10, whatever. It's counterintuitive, I think, maybe for people who are a bit on the closer to obese weight side. And I've seen this. I've had clients, mostly males who are upper 200s or low 300s, and it's tough sometimes for them to want to eat more. I'm telling them to eat more in some sense. And they're like, well,
yeah,
that doesn't jive with like, I've gained weight all these years, but they're lifting and they're eating protein, and I
right,
don't even care. And I'm like, I don't even care about your fiber and your saturated fat, to be honest. Like, I
right,
really don't care,
yeah,
because you know how much change is going to happen just from what you're doing here. And then
yeah,
once you're slimmed up a bit, you're down to 225, 250, and you're lifting, you've got muscle, you're going to be like, what do I do next? And you're
yeah.
naturally going to get there. So that's a good
Yeah,
point.
and I'm
Yeah.
paying attention to saturated fat. I
Yeah.
honestly, I don't track fiber because I eat so much fruit and vegetables that
Fair
I
enough.
I was tracking it, and then I started looking. I was like over 70 grams every day, and I'm like,
Yeah, that's a lot.
why am I even looking at this anymore? Because I'm hitting it. I just, the way I eat, it's just not an issue.
Yeah, and that's a
Um,
good point. You may
yeah,
not, for some people certain things are easy and you just don't have to track or even care about it because it just
yeah,
happens. And that's where you can take the stress off and not track
yep,
everything, but track the things that you need to change. Yeah.
yeah,
Let's talk about, okay, so we talked about nutrition, some of the sustainable fat loss stuff. I do want to talk about your training a little bit, because you've
okay,
talked a little bit about the running. You have a hybrid training approach, but what does that
yes,
mean? Concurrent training, whatever all the buzzwords are, lay it on us,
yeah,
because this is not
I'll,
our strength as a podcast is not that,
yeah.
but I want people to understand what it's like.
So I want to just say how I started. I started thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm 55 years old, or 52, I guess, 52 at the time. I'm 52 years old. This is when you start to lose muscle mass, sarcopenia. I'm getting older, but don't want to lose muscle mass. So I need to not drop muscle mass as I drop this weight. And also, I get winded every time I walk up the stairs, and I can't, do things that I want to do. We have a large yard. I get really tired doing basic yard work. I need to improve my cardiovascular health, as well as just for the daily activities of living. So I didn't come at this. I'd never heard of concurrent or hybrid or any
Mhm.
of that stuff. It was just, these are two things that I know are good for my health. So I'm going to do these two things. And eventually, somewhere along the line, I started, listening to podcasts and fitness Instagram, and this hybrid concurrent thing. It was what I was already doing though.
Hmm.
But by the time I learned that term, I was probably lifting 3 to 4 days a week and running 4 to 5 days a week. But I did 20. I was probably in the 30ish mile run, doing a. I think I was doing upper lower splits at the time. Maybe I'd switch to push pull. I prefer push pull, 6 day push pull leg, but because I live close to my gym, I can get there easily. Anyway, so point being, yeah, it was just I came at it with a health mindset of these are things that are going to be good for my health and health span and lifespan, and so I just kind of attacked both of them, and then at some point, they started to okay, how do I do both of these and have time for them? And you have to figure out, what season are you in right now? Right now, I'm training for a marathon, and if I listen to you, and I've heard you say this, I listen to you, and you'll say, "Well, always do your lifting before you're running." You listen to a run coach, and they will say, "Always do your running before you lift."
Yep. It's
If
what you care about
you,
most. Yeah.
what you care about most, you do first. And so I'm like, oh, and I've kind of adopted that for my own, for my own sort of what am I focused on right now? Right now, I'm building a base. I'm running mostly easy running. I can really hit lifting hard. So I am lifting first these days. I'm working harder on my strength. I got a huge cardiovascular base. I mean, I'm running 60 miles a week, but I'm running easy, and I can do that with very little. Frankly, even after a hard lifting session, I can run 30, 45 minutes later and not see any substantive difference in like my performance. My heart rate is this and my speed is that, and that's probably right at what it would have been if I hadn't lifted beforehand. So I'm seeing that anyway, yeah, you just but there's going to be seasons. I can look at my log from last fall when I was getting ready for the marathon where I qualified in Boston. I dropped my lifting to 2 days a week.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and there's a lot less, so I may drop it and you know I, or 2 to 3 days, and drop, just do two upper body, one lower body, and so it just, you just have to kind of focus on whatever it is that right now in this particular time is important to you. I've drawn up I've actually already drawn up a 2025 schedule. I'm presuming I'm going to like I said, I qualified for Boston. I'm presuming I'm going to mega qualify in December, and in most of 2025 I can just do kind of a true hybrid where I'm going to do as much as I can of both, but not overdo it, but just really I'm going to do a balance, do a real balance thing for much of 2025 is my plan.
So, okay, man, some really cool things in there. First of all,
Mhm.
you touched on periodization and seasons. You used the
Oh yeah.
term seasons very early when I got my nutrition coaching coaching cert. That was definitely the language used in the context of, like, if you think of an athletic season, you have a preseason where you're prep, season where you go after it, off season where you recover, and then
Yeah.
did I miss one? But you know what I mean. What in
I
between?
know what you mean.
And then the off season is actually where you develop your skill, right? Like you might go
Yeah.
after it there. But you talked about planning into 2025. Just this morning, somebody posted in our community. This is our paid program. One of our courses asks you to put together a 12-month plan. They're like, I want you to think ahead of an entire year. Think
Yeah.
about the holidays. Think about what you want to do. Think about how you want to move, the seasons, how hot and cold, like all that stuff, and put together a
yeah.
plan. And just like you're doing, you're backing it up. You're reverse engineering from, events, dates. Yeah, maybe you have a wedding. Maybe you want to look great on the beach. It doesn't matter. Whatever's driving you,
Yeah.
plan it in, because humans are really good at using like special milestones and moments and holidays to drive things. And so we take advantage of that.
Yep.
So I'm just putting that out for the listener. Like, that's a great tip Ben just said, like, plan out the next 12 months. Do you have any advice specifically on how people can start doing that? Like, because they may think it's just kind of overwhelming. What even do I do over the next 12 months?
Well, Excel is your friend. You can you can
Excel.
start.
Okay, you're going right
Excel
to the
is
tool.
your friend.
All right, you're
No,
like me,
for
man.
me, Excel was my friend. Of, okay, here's the weeks in. I mean, literally, I started with just here's the weeks and what I want, and then looking at you. You used a great term there, reverse engineering. So I'm
Yeah.
going to reverse engineering. Okay, yeah, all right. The pool opens in Memorial Day weekend, and I'm not saying this was necessarily me, but yeah, the pool opens Memorial Day weekend. I want to be coming right out of a cut then.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people are probably going to think. So I need to think about that. All right, so then I set up. Okay, this is when I'm gonna gonna strength train, and I'm gonna do my whatever 12 weeks or 16 weeks, whatever that number might be, and you work backwards from there. And then for me as a runner, it's like I want to do I want to PR a half marathon in 2025, and there's one near me. It's actually in Mount Airy, North Carolina, Andy Griffith's hometown, where
Mhm.
the show was kind of the show is kind of based on Mount Airy, and you get to take a picture with Barney Fife mobile.
Cool.
So that's always like the second week of November. So I'm kind of all right. Second week of November, half marathon training is going to take me 12 weeks. I'm going to work back from the second week of November, and then I think about all right. So that's when I'll start scaling back lifting. So then whatever that 12 week, I don't have that spreadsheet in front of me right now, but whatever the 12 weeks, sometime it was sometime in some week in September. So up to that time in September, I'm really going to go hard on my lifting,
Perfect, man.
and
Well,
so that kind of thing.
yeah.
Just really think about those events, those things that where you want to be at certain times in the year, and
Wh- yeah.
build it up.
What, as I'm thinking of that, how do you, is it a completely perfection oriented plan, or do you put in some wiggle room and some like buffer in there?
For me, I start with best case scenario,
Yeah.
but just understanding, I need to have grace with myself, and
Hmm.
life can happen, and just be okay with that, y'all. Really, just
There you go.
be okay
Life's
when
gonna
life
happen.
happens, and you might get. I get sick a lot less now that I'm eating healthy, whole, unprocessed foods all the time, or most of the time, not all the time.
Hmm.
I get sick a lot less, and I'm a healthier person, but I do get sick,
Hmm.
and that it may be got to take a week, 2 weeks off just to let your body heal, and that's okay.
Yeah, for
So
sure. We see it. I mean,
yeah,
again, as you get older, you've got the surgeries and the injuries in life and
injuries, yeah,
kids and COVID and all these other things that happen, right? You have a little time to go a little past the hour?
yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Because actually this theory came up with my mind now that I wanted to pick your brain on. Okay. So
Okay,
you're eating like 4,000 calories in a deficit, right?
yes.
Like your expenditures is
macro
4,800
factor
or
macro factor has my expenditure around 46,
okay.
4,700. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
that's my total.
So you're eating a lot of food. Like you're just eating a
Yes,
lot in terms of volume and calories and energy. You're running a lot, but you're adapted to it. You're
yes,
lifting as well. We've seen this kind of unusual outlier version of body recomp. I'm just going to call it that because it's not like results
yeah,
are not typical kind of thing.
yeah.
Do you think that there's an element here, kind of a formula that you're applying here that is putting you into a high energy, well fed state that is akin to not dieting, but because the
Oh,
energy balance is still dieting, that you're losing weight? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I should have said that.
Okay.
I did not specify that. So
Okay.
I am losing intentionally. I am losing way slower than
Mhm.
I ever have. Even slower than macro factor. I think I set it for 0.05% of
Okay.
body fat. So that's my intention. It's like one
0.05% a week. Okay.
point or 0.5%.
Point
Yeah.
5%. Okay. Well,
0.5%, not
that's
0.05.
reasonable though. That's, it's
Point
moderate.
0.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
But most people want to get close to that one. um, so most people want to, but I'm doing 0.5%, and yeah, so part of it I'm losing, and you referenced this when you're for obesity, and even not necessarily obesity. Yeah, body fat is energy, and
Yep.
excess body fat is energy, and so yeah, I do suspect that my body has been using some of that fat for muscle
Yeah.
building. Yeah,
Yeah, but not
because of
only that. So wait, I don't want to leave
yeah.
it. I'm going to challenge you on that. Not challenge,
Okay,
but
go ahead. Yeah.
you're at a much higher level than the average person in terms of your absolute calories. You
Oh,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah,
are.
yeah.
For
Sure.
being
Yes.
a sub 200 male,
Yeah.
right? Typically, I see people's
Yeah.
expenditure being on the upper end, 4,000 on the far upper end, like, a
Mhm.
bigger guy and everything, but usually it's around 3,000 to 3,500 at most. And then when
Yeah.
they're dieting, they're down to like 2,500 or 2,000 calories. And so they are getting to the point down where their body feels it, even if
Mhm.
it's moderate. You are eating a ton of calories. And so
Oh, yeah, yeah,
here's where
yeah.
my
I
theory goes is the
I
energy
got
coming
it.
in, even though a lot of it gets burned, it's kind of circling through. I wonder if
Yeah.
that puts you in a better health
Yeah.
state or metabolic state, even while you're losing, such that your body doesn't feel like it's dieting as much. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
And I should say
Yeah.
that. No, this is just so much more sustainable in
Yes.
terms of my hunger cues. Yes. Even though I'm burning it all and losing fat, I do not feel hungry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you don't have time. I mean, I eat a I typically eat 1,000 calories by the time my pre-workout and intra workout and peri workout. I've eaten 1,000 calories in the morning. Then I'm eating basically 1,000 calorie breakfast, 1,000 calorie lunch, 1,000 calorie
Yeah.
dinner, and 1,000 calories in the morning before breakfast. Is basically how it tends to play out. And yeah, I'm not hungry. I
Okay.
program in snacks and fruit and stuff, and sometimes
Yeah.
I forget to
And
get
then
up
you
from my
fall
desk.
behind. Yeah.
I forget to go get an orange
Yeah.
or some blueberries or whatever I
Yeah.
put in for a snack for the day. Yes, that absolutely happens. So
So now you're also running a lot, and so people are going to think, because here's the thing, I always have to caution people, especially when they start working with me, like we're probably going to do less in the short term because you're probably
yeah,
doing too much and you're stressing your body, especially
yes,
women doing too much
yep.
cardio. But now we're talking to a guy here, you Ben, that's doing a ton of cardio, like a ton of cardio. And so what makes it actually work for you? You talked about balance, but still it's a lot. It's a lot of volume. Is it sleep? Are you getting 9 hours of sleep? What is it that's keeping the stress load down, do you think?
I think you're dead right. When you said that earlier, and now that I think about it, I do think it's the quality. The quality and the amount of nutrition really
Mm.
have to be it. I'm not a great sleeper. I don't. It's funny. My wife asked me fairly recently, a week or two ago. She's like, "Have you stopped drinking for good?" Or I said, "I don't know." I literally, I've literally never been drunk in my life or even tipsy in
Mhm.
my life. But I would have a glass of wine here and there. I haven't had any in, I think it was around 2022. I'm not even sure. So it wasn't like a conscious, I'm not going to drink anymore this
Right.
day. I just kind of stopped at some point. And I'm not saying, so the point being, I don't consume alcohol, which is, it's a recovery inhibitor because it hurts your recovery. So I really focus on recovery and getting walks in and, active recovery on the days that I'm not, days that I'm not running or not lifting, doing a little bit of active recovery, doing, real light stuff on those days. I'm not a great sleeper. I know it's important. I try to. Sometimes I just wake up,
Yeah.
and it
I
is
hear you,
what it is.
man.
But I'm getting in bed. I am typically in bed before 8 p.m. every night, but
Okay.
I don't sleep till I don't, but I don't sleep 8 hours almost
Right.
never. So,
Okay. No, it's good.
I,
It's good to understand. What
yeah.
does your step count come out to be when you include all your running? What is it roughly a day on
I don't
average?
check it much anymore. It's like 22,
Okay.
23,000. I'm gonna
Okay.
look at Garmin real quick. I
That
can
makes
tell you in a
sense.
second. You can ask the next question.
Yeah.
I'll give you the
Well,
answer to
no.
that
So
one.
now I want to get to that pivotal, like we teased early on. A lot of people will hear all this, the concurrent training, the hybrid training, and the fact that you went after two goals, right? That sometimes seem contradictory with performance and health. So what's like the number one piece of advice that you would have for people who are like, I do want to prioritize both of those with my approach and my training?
Yeah, so performance and health is similar to the whole thing I was saying about running and lifting. You've got to periodize and
Mm.
decide what right now is the thing I want to focus on. I'll give you my personal example. I said earlier, I really want to focus on just nailing a marathon this fall. Okay. That is not an optimal health goal, it is a performance goal. And quite frankly, I would say as a runner, I feel like I've gotten on a bit of a bunny trail doing marathons. Like, because as I started at health. I'm working on this health, and now I'm chasing this rabbit over here of the marathon and really trying to nail that. I would probably say, even as somebody who's running, who's running 9 hours a week ish, and do a 16 to 18 miler every week, probably 90 minutes is the cap for any run that you would ever want to do. So, point being,
Mm.
I know that I am not optimized for necessarily health right now, quote unquote. I am getting close to optimized for performance. But as I said earlier, I'm going to change that. I'm going to do this, and I plan to get out of marathon. I plan to get out of the marathon business, if you will.
Yeah.
It's a nice goal. It's a fun goal. And I'm not saying if you're a runner, you can keep running marathons if that's your thing, but I don't think it's optimal for my health pursuits, quite
Yeah.
frankly. So,
Yeah, so it makes sense. You got to go after one or the other. What are your thoughts on lifting? Because kind of the extreme version of that
oh,
would be bodybuilding, where
yeah,
again that's not healthy.
great.
But is there this interesting space where lifting weights as a performance goal to an extent actually can overlap more with health? I wonder,
Yeah.
right?
So, for me, lifting is, I approach lifting and running really differently. Like,
Yeah.
lifting, I want to progress. Like, all I want to see is getting a little bit stronger in my 6 to 8 rep range. Like,
Hmm.
I people ask me, how much can you bench? I have no idea. I have never one rep maxed. I can't come up with a reason why I would want to try to.
Okay. We should talk. We should
Like
talk, Ben.
I can't, but no,
No.
but I've built muscle. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm strong. I'm, for a guy my size in particular, I feel like I've got a lot of strength, but I really approach that with a muscle building strength, mobility plyometric sort of, I'm able
It
to
is
approach
health. It's
lifting
an
with,
aspect of
yeah,
health, is what you're saying.
I'm able to
Yeah.
approach lifting much more with a pure health thing of I
Sure.
need to build and maintain muscle mass, and that is my focus. I'm not tempted to go do a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
I'm not tempted to take some anabolic stuff that would,
Right.
and I'm not tempted to be enhanced. None of that. I mean, that's not even. It's just not on my radar.
Yeah. And
But
similarly, you alluded to the fact that keeping running under a certain level can also be aligned with health. So that again,
yeah, oh
there's a
yeah,
spectrum and there's extremes. You can go after the extremes, knowing that they're going to be contradictory with the health goal, but
yeah,
not necessarily. It's not going to just trash it, long term. It might even support it long term when you get out of it potentially because
yeah,
you've periodized. And
yeah.
then mentally, I imagine it's like you want it, like you want to win this thing, right?
Yeah,
You want to crush your marathon.
I think the lesson is also kind of what drives you.
Yeah, what drives
What's
you? Yep.
fun and drives you, and what keeps you in the game. Really, what keeps what is it that keeps me going back to the gym every morning? What keeps me running every day? I enjoy it. So you've got to
Awesome.
find modalities that you've got to find modalities of movement that you personally enjoy. I mentioned I started with biking. I realized I don't really like
Yeah.
biking.
You don't like biking. Yeah. Like many
I
of us
just
don't
don't.
like running.
I just don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I have right behind me an indoor bike that I bought that I use. I do use it for a recovery ride at least
Sure.
once a week.
Warming up, recovery. Yeah.
I use it once a week. But yeah, it's not I'm not, yeah, it just hadn't, it's never grabbed me like running and lifting has. So
Yeah.
I don't do it as often.
All right. We touched on so much today, man. You know this question is coming because you listen to the show, right? But what one question did you wish I had asked, and what is your answer?
Oh gosh, no, I'd written down something and now I forgot what it was. um, I think, let me see what let me just look quickly at some of my little notes here. Oh, we didn't talk about the scale. We never talked about the scale at all,
Yeah, it was
and
on. It was on. I had a lot of notes,
my
man.
relationship
So
to it. Yeah, that would have been
let's jump
one.
into it. Okay, talk
Yeah, so
about your
I
relationship
can,
with the scale. Yeah.
yeah, so and I was in 2013, man, it drove everything. And it was awful. It was terrible. It was, I got to get up, and I hope this isn't TMI, like I got to poop before I get on the scale because I don't
Mm.
want that extra few ounces or whatever, half a pound,
Oh man,
whatever.
I've been.
Uh,
I know what you mean.
yeah,
I know
I
what you
mean,
mean.
and it was ridiculous. And now it is. I mean, it's just evolved. I won't go over it. It has evolved to, and honestly, it's done it by weighing every day. Ironically, just kind of facing that giant, I weigh practically every single day. When I don't weigh, it's because like I'm traveling, or I have to, for whatever reason, rush out the door really fast. But now it's just another data point. And partly, that's partly because I am tracking and I know my diet's dialed in, and I know this. I know it worked because I know this stuff works, and I trust the process. I keep saying that, and I know, I've had, there's some variability and ability. What's the word I'm looking for? There's some. It's not 100% accurate when you're tracking. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I know there's some, but I know that today I've had a 4,050 calories, and I know that that's a deficit from what I burn. And if I'm up a half a pound tomorrow, whatever. And if I'm down a half a pound tomorrow, whatever. That's just how it works. And I've seen, I posted it in your Facebook group. I mean, my scale track for the last whatever, since January, 5 months has just been, but it's going down, but it's not
Right.
this.
It's not a straight
It's
line. It's
it's
a
not a
lot
straight
of
line. Oh
humps.
yeah, for those listening, it's a
Yeah.
lot of humps. But I know where it's headed, and even I was able to say I'm surprised at myself, and when I said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so weird that I can just say that out loud with confidence. That in 2 months I'm gonna be at 12 to 15% body fat.
Right.
I just kind of know that. I trust the process that much because I've started tracking it every day and just seeing kind of how it works when you're hitting it. And that also relates to not being hungry. I'm way more confident I'm not going to have these crazy binges because I'm eating enough.
Mhm. Cool, man. So you're saying your
Yeah,
relationship with the scale has improved because you're tracking it every day. You have the knowledge, awareness, power to know
all the
this is going to
things.
fluctuate. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you say to someone who, because I've seen a spectrum with working with clients where
Yeah.
90% of the time that is true. There's 10% of the time where somebody does track daily, because all my clients track daily, where it's still a mental roadblock for them. And I have different techniques that I work through
Yeah.
with them because there's usually something else going on and some
Right.
reframing and things. But how would
Right.
you like talk to a friend who's trying to lose their weight for the first time and they're like, I've been weighing myself every day, but it just jumped 3 pounds today. I'm freaking out. What would you say to them?
I would lead with compassion. I mean, our culture has trained us so poorly in this area.
Mm.
We say it's been interesting as I've gotten into the podcast world to hear you and others use the frame fat loss. Which is really what you want to do, and not just weight loss. That we're working to reduce body fat, and so I would lead with compassion and just be like, I understand why this is such a problematic area, because it's a problem. And I know for me, I would say it was a problematic area for me. I can speak to you as someone who, hey, I've been there, man, or lady, I've been there. I totally get it. Here's what did work for me eventually, but you know, I, I'm not gonna say I had a great relationship with the scale. I mean, I've been down again. I've been down under. I've been at a healthy to semi-healthy body weight for almost 3 years now, but I'm not gonna say my relationship with the scale has been good for 3 years. I'm gonna say my
Hmm.
relationship with the scale has been good. My relationship with the scale has been outstanding since probably February or Marchish, when when I really decided I'm gonna lose, and I'm gonna lose slowly. I'm gonna
Hmm.
cut slowly. This is the first time in my life I've cut slowly. Every time I go up, I just, I gotta get rid of that fast. But no,
Yep.
so definitely. I guess now that I think about it, I think I would go there. Let's talk about what a slow cut looks like, and that is what has taught me to trust it, is actually doing a slow cut. And I know that I want to try actually your little rapid 2 week fat loss protocol thing. I've heard that. No,
Sure.
once I get to maintenance, I might play with that some. But I do think there's a place for that slow loss that really helps you feel confident, and it is just better. It's better, that relationship where it's like, you know what, I'm not trying to lose 2.5 3 pounds a week. I don't want to get down to X weight by the beach, or by Memorial Day, or by the class reunion, or the wedding, or whatever it may be. you
Got it.
know
Okay. Yeah. No, that's well said. I mean, focus on the process. Don't go so fast so you have realistic expectations, and
yeah.
then use the scale as a tool, rather than an indictment on, your soul, which
Right.
all right. Awesome, man.
Practically,
So yeah, go ahead.
I would say, practically speaking, using something like macro factor. I also just use a good old 7 day average in Excel. I
Sure.
put it in Excel every day, and I just a good old is my 7 day average. And so that helps. That helps
Yeah.
where it's just a data point in the 7 day average, not the be all end all today. I would probably talk to folks about that too. There's also an app. I know you're an app guy. This is a freebie. Happy Scale. It
Hmm.
also
I've
does
heard
a,
of that.
it does a,
Yeah.
it does a moving average. And if you have any smart scale, will sync to it automatically, and it can give you a moving average. It just might be an alternative for those that don't want to pay for
Absolutely.
macro factor. For those that
No,
want to
for
pay
for
for
sure.
macro factor.
And actually, if you want
But
to do what Ben's doing with the spreadsheet, and I don't know if Ben, you want to
well, yeah,
upgrade your spreadsheet, MacroFactor uses a 20-day exponential moving average. So
yeah.
you could
Oh,
do
I
that in
know.
Excel as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then it requires more data points.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I
It
didn't
would.
mean to be the know-it-all, man. I tend to get into that mode sometimes. So just sharing knowledge. Awesome, man. This has been really cool. Where do you want people to find you and reach out to you?
Oh yeah. So I am, and I could use the help. I should have said this earlier. I'm going to make a quick statement here. We were talking about folks that have a lot of weight to lose. I found a random person on Instagram that is just really. When we were talking about making those little progress gains, and like, I'm watching her get from a 16-minute mile to a 15-minute mile, and the joy that she is having just hitting that hitting that little bit faster mile pace. So anyway, point being, those of us that are in these journeys on Instagram, and I've just started following her and just cheering her on. Those of us that are in these journeys that we don't have these large social media followings and whatnot, we would love your support. And it's Benny Lou Fitness. I'm sure you'll put the link in your show notes, but it's at Benny Lou, BENELOU underscore fitness at Instagram. That's where, I would love your support. Having that bit of external validation is helpful and joyful, and I think it does help. So
Definitely, for sure. If you're listening, go right now. Follow if you use IG, Instagram at Benelou Fitness, BENELOU_fitness, and I'll include that in the show notes. And give Ben a follow, please do. If you enjoyed the show and you want to follow him and just say hello, I'm sure he'll say hello back. And Ben, man, it's been a pleasure. I didn't know exactly what we'd get into here, but it's all the good things people need to know about how to tackle this mentally, physically, and otherwise. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.